Every word is a step forward. Into darkness.
Guys, it's not often that a game comes along and completely redefines what's possible in the medium, but when you see it for yourself, you just gotta acknowledge it. I mean, I guess it goes without saying, and it's not like it hasn't gotten enough attention already this year, but let me be yet another voice to the throng talking about this game. I'm talking Skull Island: Rise of Kong? Yeah, that's right. This channel is about the hard truths, not the ones that get you popular, famous, or fulfilled as a content creator, so the truth needs outing. Rise of Kong is a truly one-of-a-kind experience that won't be paralleled by any other game this year. Developer Iguana Bee gives heart-wrenching tales like The Last of Us and Plague Tale a run for their money, with their mature take on King Kang's origins, exploring paternal loss and the cost of vengeance. The first thing I noticed was how fast the game's 4.1 gigabyte DLs. That's what big-time influencers call downloading, because, I got things to say and people to do. Chop chop. And upon booting up this game, I was greeted with an absolutely rim-rocking theme on the main menu. I could already tell this was going to be the game in the year of 2023. Bing Bong looks the part, his fur bristling in the complete lack of breeze. I could just feel his wrath. Iguana Bee wisely chose a super monochrome environmental palette too, so you're never distracted from feeling like a brutish animal out for vengeance. I mean, how immersive is it to be like, oh, look at that beautiful vista over there. Let me admire the wonders of nature. It's like, grow up, man. There are no vistas underground where your dead parents are, so get back to work. And lest you get too comfortable feeling like the fucking king of the Congo, the game starts out with getting your ankles bitten off by these little Tinosaurus rexes, your huge mitts doing very little damage to their scaly little hides. It's kind of like the beginning of Bioshock 2, where even though you're a big daddy, you still call all the splicers daddy for quite some time.
Again? That's really not a really defensible position.
And much like Bioshock 2, I died over and over again as King Kang to even the smallest of enemies because the block is really more like a half-hearted swat at a fly that's just annoying enough to where you wish it was not there, but not enough that you're really going to try to get rid of it. But how do you like to be called king with that weak-ass right hook? Is it just part of the nepotism of hereditary monarchy? We gotta fight the power, man. Conky Dong is one clunky monkey, let me tell you. He's torn apart by grief, doubt, probably mange, and a ridiculously misinformed 3D modeler who thought that Kang should just be a little bigger than a common suburban front yard hedge. Now, almost as if the developers knew that Kinky Kong wasn't fighting at full strength, they gave him the ability to pick up rocks and chuck them at enemies at range, and then they lean into this mechanic like a mother aper for boss fights. And by boss fights, they're less like bosses and more like skirmishes with disgruntled middle management, which I empathize with heavily now that I'm the head caretaker at my cemetery. They're sort of these hardly motivated, barely paying attention guys who idly move around areas and kind of take a swing at you as if they're annoyed they've been programmed to acknowledge your presence. These fights are your oh-so-rich reward for running around aimlessly, killing some trash mobs in designated areas, and then unlocking the way forward. But these bosses require some of the funniest exploits to beat. The first worm boss isn't good per se, but it's probably the most legitimate attempt at a boss encounter, as it requires you to figure out when it's safe to attack, let you cheese him out a little with throwing rocks at him, some risk-reward kind of stuff. But there is one boss named King Dingus? Oh my god, is his name literally King Dingus? I think I'm in love. Anyway, King Dingus or Kingus or Kadingus legitimately has no weaknesses and can only be beaten through cheese, as you have to jump up into a very specific part of the side railing of the arena that allows you to throw rocks over, but you have to be just covered enough that Dingus's projectiles can't get to you, and then repeat over and over and over until you did. This built-in jank was almost charming, but I was more impressed with the exploit I found in the 3 raptors fight. So I ran behind a rock in the corner of the arena against these guys, to see if I could isolate them and take them on one by one, which I did, but not exactly for the reason I thought. One of the raptors fell into this crevice and got stuck, meaning if I was careful to attack but not fall down next to him, I could just wing him to death no problem. He stayed there until I got done with the other two, and then I beat the brakes off of him. Funny? Absolutely. Good game design? Also yes. And no, not at all.
Hell no, to the no, no, no.
But anything that could help me get through this one faster was a godsend. Whew. Okay, as you can see, I'm losing the bit here, the naive asker for this game, so let's just launch into what Rise of Dawn is really like. This game's super mediocre looking. It repeats the same bland environments for what feels like hours every level. The combat's fucking stiff, and Kong's an absolute wimp, and I can't get over this built-in wiggle in his back here. Like, what is that? Like... And so when you're not repetitively smacking away on these little chompy boys or these awful crab things that'll beat your ass back to the Jurassic period, you'll get around these positively cavernous environs by climbing vines and hopping around with this sort of stilted targeting platforming system. It just feels very unpolished, both in how Kong slips and slides off things he's supposed to land on and how you have to spam the jump button to make him get over it oftentimes. And because the environments just repeat the same 3 to 4 enemy types and have so few environmental markers, it is really easy to get lost. You can roar to see where to go next, and some action lines will appear, but only if you're facing them will it help you. And often they're just flat out lying to you, because sometimes it'll even show multiple areas you'll need to go to next, which is just fake news.
You are fake news.
I spent several hours just trying to find my way out of the second area alone, and when I got through the next two, I apparently walked right out of the end boss arena all the way back to the second level somehow, instead of progressing the game to the next level. How and why this was even possible, especially since it was literally right behind the most current boss I'd just beaten, not some side path kind of as an option I could use to go back if I wanted to. The navigation is just mind-bending to figure out and actually kept me from completing the game fully, as I still had the last 2 bosses to find and the last full level to traverse, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I actively wanted to play Rise of Kong at first. I even asked for it as a birthday gift, as a meme. I thought, this will be a fly old time to just laugh along with it. But the truth is that Kong isn't funny bad. It's soul crushing. The combat's so simplistic, and Kong barely has any defense against even the weakest enemies. It's the opposite of a power fantasy, which is the exact opposite of why we come to Kong media. And if that wasn't bad enough, the game's got a ton of weird bugs, or ones that will just mess up your progress of this short but somehow incredibly bloated game. The main menu makes it very easy to delete your save, so if you click through the menus too fast, you'll erase your game more than likely. It also has a bug where if you load your manual save, it will just endlessly load, so you actually have to use one of the auto saves. One time I died and it sent me back 4 checkpoints instead of my most recent one, which really sucked because it meant I had to figure out the Goldilocks path through the area again, which I barely remembered and had only recently found by accident. And if that wasn't bad enough, there are some truly side-splittingly weird things that come up, like loading screens in the middle of cutscenes, or the best part of the entire game, which is where Kong sees a dinosaur and it triggers a flashback of his parents being murdered by a similar dinosaur, and the flashback comes up as this completely untouched screenshot of the dinosaur just poof on the screen, and then it goes away. I cannot make this up. It's just the pee-pee drizzle on this poo-poo cake. I could not believe my eyes, but it's so fitting. It's exactly what Rise of Kong is. A clear cash grab, trying to get away with doing the bare minimum. And what's kind of amazing is it's not even funny bad. It's just so bland. And once you see the reports about its development, it's not hard to see why it wound up this way, and who the real bad guys are. Verge dug into the matter and found out that the publisher Game Mill Entertainment gave the developer Iguanabee just 1 year to make the game and provided very few details about how the project was supposed to go, so they sort of had to make it up as they went. As few as 2 to 20 people were working on it at any given time, and an anonymous source says that while Iguanabee is a very talented developer, the conditions they were under gave them no time to flourish, and they saw plenty of people let go during the process because Game Mill didn't want to spend money to keep them on. But what do you expect expect from a company that willingly calls themselves Game Mill, like they're just churning out product like an old-timey production line. I guess one detail that lets us know Iguanabe's not really the bad guys here, as they call the game Monkey, as evidenced by the source files on PC. Aww. I had initially wanted to play all the bad games this year.
What?
As I already reviewed and loathed Redfall, but I wanted to grab Gollum and The Walking Dead Destinies too to kind of complete that shit tier trifecta. But honestly, having played Kong first and it being so incredibly tedious and uninspired, it honestly just made me leery of trying anything else out this bad. I mean this when I say this. This game got to the point of putting me down. Like I felt nearly depressed while playing it. It was just so soul deadening to be a part of. With that dubious honor in mind, I give it another. This is the game of the year of 2023. Not because it's the best, but because it will make you appreciate just how good even the AAA Ubi garbage we play all the time is by comparison, and how great, actually great things like Alan Wake 2 are. The glory of when people actually care about expressing themselves and entertaining us at the same time. So, that's pretty much all I got for 2023. One of the best gaming years we've probably ever had. That reminds us that yes, games are still good, and despite how many popular videos tell you otherwise, gaming is not dying, though I'm sure it does have some nasty infections it can clear up, and may require some New Year's resolutions after a near-death experience, but there's still hope for us all, even if you are just a little monkey caught in the corporate crossfire.
That's the game!
So do yourself a favor, don't go anywhere near this game, even if you think you're going to do it for fun. It's just not worth it. Instead, go play the incredibly good Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official video game of the movie, one of my favorite games of all time, and one of the best adaptations of a licensed property you'll ever play. It'll make it to where you
Just can't wait to be king.
I just really want to give a huge shout out to my lovely patrons, Mark Neubauer, Deadforge, Hey Blondie, James Wyatt, The Nth Review, and Yaxo. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, peace and love.